Breaking news, Kansas and football coach Les Miles have mutually parted ways.
And we do have some breaking news from the University of Kansas. Athletic director Jeff Long is now stepping down.
Toto, I have a feeling we're not in Kansas anymore.
You are listening to The Review on the OSG Sports Podcasting Network.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back. You are listening to or watching another episode of The Review. It's the online sports guys college football podcast where we talk about things going on in the great, big, wide, wonderful world of college football. Yeah, since it's technically the off season, we're not doing this every week. We're just doing it every couple of weeks here as time permits. And as always, joining me, OSG Nelson, John Wilkerson, me, OSG Phil. We are the online sports guys. OSG J-Dub, he's on vacation this week.
He's on assignment. Who are you kidding?
Well, yeah.
He's on something.
Subject to be named later. And guys, while we've been away for the last couple weeks, the headline dominating story is out of Kansas, which is something that you can rarely say about the Kansas Jayhawks football program, because they had a little turmoil based on just a smidge, based on the exploits of one Lester Miles and one Jeff Long, the athletic director, both now former employees of the university. And guys, how big of a mess is this?
I'm going to defer to the Arkansas member of the show and have him start things off, because I want to hear what Wilkie has to say about this. Ever since this started to go down, I wanted to hear Wilkie's point of view. So, Wilkie, you go first.
Well, it's not a shock. Look at the football coaching hires that Jeff Long had at Arkansas. Bobby Petrino, people thought that was a great hire, was for a little while, and we all, I think I made a comment to you guys the day that he was hired at Arkansas that, usually these things with Bobby Petrino don't end well. So I guess I was prophetic in that way, right? John L. Smith, it was kind of a dumpster fire, and then Brett Bielema, who was okay, but more of a caricature of a football coach than an actual football coach, and we'll see if he can rehab a little bit in Illinois this year.
Yeah, a Big Ten football coach masquerading as an SEC coach.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. But again, it's you got to go by that track record. But I just know back in my home state that there were people that were very turned off by, and guys with deep pockets too, that were very turned off with Jeff Long because he catered to the Fortune 500 companies that have come in Northwest Arkansas. I think we kind of know who those companies are.
Some kind of mart.
Yeah, and something with poultry and logistics. Yeah, and that was his base. And you have some old money and ag money that in central and southern Arkansas that was just being ignored. And then there was the case with the Little Rock games and his stance on that. So he really alienated a lot of people, a lot of the fan base in Arkansas. And you saw those patterns again in Kansas. And then you saw the same pattern with hiring a football coach. I know he and Les Miles are pretty close, which for some people would be red flag number one, right?
Uh-huh.
You would think.
But it just didn't work. I mean, Les Miles had his time at LSU, won a national championship, played for another, and he was good for that program to a certain extent. But trying to duplicate that at KU, look, that is a reclamation project that needs someone more special than someone like Les Miles. I'm not even sure Nick Saban could do that in a reasonable amount of time that you have in college athletics right now. It's cost him. How does he rehab now? I mean, I don't think a college administrator or a university president is going to hire him in any kind of,
Oh no, he's done.
yeah, in any kind of a position like he used to have.
Yeah.
So, and as for Les Miles, look, I thought his best move would have been to try the television route, because I thought he was a natural for that.
He was great that year he did it.
And coach is coach, and that's what he wants to do. And it's just, again, things came out about him, and the performance on the field was really bad.
And John, what about those off the field issues at LSU? How much do you think that should and did carry or kind of factor in all this?
I think that you would have hoped that it would have been a part of the due diligence going into the hire in the first place. But that's just me. You see all of this stuff come to the fore after the fact, and the element where it took how many years was it? 7, 9?
7.
7. So
yeah.
you had 7 years of an investigation that finally comes to the fore. I would have thought that it would, at least the contacts that you would have had inside the Southeastern Conference, that these issues would have been at least either known or thought of or somewhere a part of the discussion. But I think that instead of it being part of the discussion leading into the hire, I think that it ended up being the inverse and aided in the dismissal. So for me, I would have thought that, honestly, with as connected as folks are these days, all you got to do is pick up a phone. Hey, hey, so-and-so in Baton Rouge, you do some background checks. You do ABC.
Did anybody ever bother to talk to Joe Oliva, who wanted to get rid of Les when this all surfaced?
Probably not. I mean, if you're Jeff Long and you have an idea in your head, this is my guy, you're going to sit there and you're going to take your thought, and that's first, second, and third thought in your brain. That's it. You're not going to sit there and think about all of the ancillary elements that would be in and around your hire. It's like, if this is my guy, I'm going to hire him, and then everything else be damned. And so I think that's where we were in this situation.
Well, you're also looking at trying to make a big splash for a program that has just been irrelevant. True. And that was his way of doing it. And Jeff Long likes those type of coaches, guys that are a little outside the box, football wise, personality wise. He's attracted to those type, at least in my judgment, he's attracted to those type of football coaches. And Les Miles definitely fits that bill.
Thank you very much. Have a great day.
It was all about getting some kind of vibe with KU football.
You needed that splash.
Yeah, you need that splash. And there was the expectation of a couple years in that they would be fighting for a bowl game, or at least maybe 8 wins by the time he gets to his third season, and maybe some splash in the recruiting. But those things weren't happening. And, don't discount the way the pandemic affected this too, because, obviously the players were, I don't know what kind of recruiting he was getting, and they weren't able to go recruiting. And I think that could play into it as well. And the transfer portal as well. I mean, I think that affected a lot of things and a lot of plans for that program, which I think led to what happened 7 years ago resurfacing, because now you had a coach that, not basically living up to expectations. And I'm sure somebody's doing some digging to find some kind of out for Les Miles. So there was a lot of factors there that kind of contributed to all this.
I'll get into the Kansas way of firing people here in a minute, but I want to ask kind of a broad brush question to either one of you guys. Is this something that's indicative of the old boy network in college football when it comes to hiring? And
no doubt. Absolutely.
And that'll never go away.
No, it won't. Absolutely not.
Because there's so much talk about how there's no diversity in college football coaches, and there's some truth to it. And it's the nepotism network or the friends of network that always ends up with jobs. And that's exactly what it seems like happened here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, and as long as you have that network in place, you're going to have the recycled hires. You're going to have the names that we've always seen. You're going to have them getting paid more and more and more money just because of the business being what it is. And since it's making more money now than it was in previous stops, you're going to see these astronomical numbers of hires and contracts, but it's going to be attached to the old boy network. I mean, I would love to see some fresh faces. I'd love to see some diversity. I'd love to see some new names, but until the network expires, and take that in whatever form you want to use the word, you're still going to have these hires. You're still going to have the big name hire in the oddball plays just because of where athletic directors go and, if they become parts of hierarchies in universities and things like that. Wilkie, I think that as long as this network is always there, you're always going to see things like we saw in Lawrence.
Yeah, I agree. But the network isn't going anywhere, and the old boy network will still be around. You brought up a good point, Phil, about minority hiring and so forth. Immediately Tony Elliott came to mind because he's had opportunities to move on to a head coaching opportunity, and he hasn't taken it. And again, it's kind of like the way Brent Venables, his defensive coordinator counterpart at Clemson, he's had chances. They're well taken care of at Clemson. So I look at these African-American and minority coordinators who are making some really good money, and they may not want the headache of head coaching. I wouldn't right now either, because now you got the transfer portal you got to worry about, and you got parents and the recruiting. And I just don't know if it's a job I would do. And if I'm a coordinator and I'm making seven figures,
yeah,
I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
And I just have to worry about one side of the ball. And if an NFL job comes up, I might be more interested in that than I would be a head coaching job in college. I think I mentioned that earlier show about the differences between coaching in the NFL and coaching in college right now.
Yeah.
So, maybe the old boy network is still there, but those opportunities for minority coaches, they don't want to take them because of they've got a good thing going right now. Why mess it up?
Well,
I know it's kind of off track with Jeff.
But it's part of a larger picture, Wilkie.
Yeah,
right.
What we're seeing with Old Boy Network, and then creating other things that might be of interest to you and or standing pat in your position. Because, I mean, Brent Venables makes $11 billion a year as a coordinator.
Not that much, but he's well paid. Let's say that.
And you have a lot of the coordinators today who understand that right now they're enjoying what they're doing. They're enjoying the compartmentalized idea of, I'm just going to handle my stuff. I don't want to handle all the stuff. I just want to handle my stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that, to your point, I think that folks today, in addition to having to deal with the old boy network, if you're sitting there and you're just digging and handling your stuff, your dossier on a daily basis might be just like, this might be just for those watching on YouTube, one page of stuff on a to-do list every day, where if you're a head coach, you're dealing with something that's like, that's this big. It's a whole lot of other stuff to deal with. And it's like, how much crap do you want to have on your plate right now? And I think that some coordinators.
Or like this.
Yeah, that. So, I mean, it's just how much crap do you want to deal with? And I think that that's also part of it, too.
Well, two things that I'll add to this. One, it does all tie in because the way that Long went about hiring less basically reinforced the old boy network, which
right. Another example of it, yeah.
The other part of that, though, is I would disagree a little bit in the fact that I think most college football coaches want to be able to see what they can do with their own program.
Right, yeah, no doubt.
They want to see if they're able to compete at that level because they're competitive people by nature.
Yeah.
And, yeah, the money's great and getting paid a couple $1 million a year to be a coordinator is great. But if you want to be the top banana, you want to see if you can be the man, the only way to do that is to get the opportunity.
But to be the man, you got to beat the man. And I'm saying, woo!
True, no question.
And not those opportunities are getting rarer and rarer for people in a lot of cases who are very, very deserving of it.
But you also got to be willing to weigh in FCS opportunities or opportunities in the group of five. And I see where coordinators in the power level don't want to entertain those. And that's a good apprenticeship for especially a young coach who gets an opportunity. Look at Coastal Carolina.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, perfect example right there. But some of these coordinators are comfortable where they are, and as long as the coaching staffs, the head coach and the athletic director are sticking around, why mess that up? So I think there's a lot of factors involved as to why these coordinators in the Power 5 level aren't moving on to head coaching jobs at a lower level to prove themselves, because really that's how it used to be. If you got a chance to coach at an FCS school, way back when we were young, there was no group of five or Power 5. You may be a mid-major like in college basketball, but those opportunities are, you got to take a cut in pay. You're not going to get the same facilities. Your recruiting budget is going to be much smaller. So it's really, you got to weigh the opportunity and whether it's an opportunity that's going to shoot you up onto the top level. So
it's a good thing for some guy, for a certain style of coach. If I step down to take a job at a higher level FCS school, and I take a program there and build it and make it successful on a lower level, you've got that instant reputation as a program.
Yep.
Which is something that a lot of these schools, and particularly a school like Kansas, which is probably the best example of what they need more than anything else, is a program builder, which Les Miles most definitely was not.
Yeah, but you got to have the patience and the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think KU alums and athletic administrators and fans in general are just so beleaguered right now. Because they haven't had anything to really cheer about since Todd Reesing was a quarterback and Mike Mangino was rolling down the sidelines.
Yes.
That's been a while.
Yeah.
And it's a program too that's really kind of an up and down program. I mean, your great players that came out of that program, that was 50 years ago. I'm talking about Gale Sayers and John Riggins.
Yep.
Yeah, it's going to take someone special, someone who wants to stay there, to be able to do that. And that's, I think, the issue right now is it a good enough job? It's going to pay well. You're in a Power 5 conference, but is it sustainable enough to get the recruits to come in, to be able to get the Kansas City kids to come over?
That's big.
And dip into, they made some inroads in Louisiana and getting some really good recruits out of there and out of the Dallas-Fort Worth area, but is that door closed now with all the shenanigans going on?
Yeah, and I mean, to steal a really old cliche, Rome wasn't built in a day, but
the thing is that folks want results in a day now. They want that prefab house built so they can move in and be a part of the neighborhood. And when Kansas under David Beatty was what it was, and this is not an indictment of David Beatty at all, but
thrown under the bus.
Yeah, when you're sitting there and it's like you have this opportunity to sit there and change the paradigm, you're changing the dynamic, you're going to bring in a fresh face because of you want the renovations to all of the athletic facilities, you want the renovation to the stadium. How do you do that? You bring in a shiny object, and the shiny object that Jeff Long had in his hip pocket was Les Miles. And that is, under normal circumstances, that's something that can get you attracted. There's that magnet there of talent. There's the magnet there of eyeballs and coverage and all these things in a place where you weren't getting it. And one of two things was going to happen. You were going to get that gradual growth over the first couple of years, you might have been relevant, getting bowl games, get to 8 wins, do whatever, or you're going to flame out spectacularly and you run the risk of being worse off than you were because of the financial investment that was made by the university trying to get to a place that they thought they could get to, but now they're not. And so now Kansas really has to figure out what they're going to do with all of this money that has been flushed into this relationship with Jeff Long and Les Miles. Now they got to figure out where to go from here because of all the money that they've invested and have zero return for it.
Let me address the 80,000-pound gorilla in the room with this, the KU basketball program.
Right.
It is elite, top level, and it has been since the 1920s. So think about this, and this popped in my head as you were talking there, John. It's hard for a football program to be overshadowed by a men's basketball program, and we know the schools where that is the case. So whoever gets this opportunity, interviewing, should follow the script that David Cutcliffe followed when he was being interviewed for the Duke job.
Yeah.
On the day he went in for his interview with Duke, he asked the AD if he could get a few minutes with Mike Krzyzewski. And they arranged that pretty quickly. And he and Kay and Coach Cut had a conversation about how they could be successful together and what it's going to take to win at Duke. And if I'm sure part of the conversation, Cut shared with me some of that, but I'm sure somewhere in the conversation was the fact that we need to work together on this. So I think whoever is the guy they're looking to interview and he comes in for the interview should make sure they can get a few minutes with Bill Self and have the same type of conversation and open up that dialogue. Because now you've brought down all walls between the programs, and you've earned the respect of both parties. And really, when you have both those programs working together, and obviously football recruiting weekend, you want to take them to the basketball game, and going to the Fog is a huge deal. And vice versa. I mean, they want the football program to be successful. So when you bring in basketball recruits, that's part of the deal as well. You can't tell me that Alabama's men's basketball success isn't because a direct result from what football is doing and bringing those recruits into Bryant Denny. So I think whoever is that person needs to make sure that he gets a few minutes with Bill Self to earn some respect.
Which is a good way to kind of start wrapping up this first block of the show. And I'll answer the question I'm about to ask first, and then I'll throw it over to you, John, to finish it up.
Sure.
Can Kansas be saved as a football program? Is it a salvageable project? And I think it could be with the right person, but they've got to find that person. And there's got to be some patience involved. Because as much as you want to be able to say that the next year you're in a bowl game and then the year after that you're playing for the Big 12 title and so on and so forth, it just doesn't happen overnight.
No, and that's the
thing. It
thing.
never does. And everybody seems to think that they can just make one change and all of a sudden it's all fixed. That's not how it works.
Mm-mm.
And I think if Kansas gets the right young coach that's driven to try and build a program from the inside out, because that's to me is the only way that they're going to have any kind of a chance of being competitive, is to take it from the root, build it from the roots and back out again. They've got to find that person, identify that person, and make it, and be patient and let it work. That being said, I don't know if they're never going to be Oklahoma. They're never going to be Texas. They probably won't be Iowa State even, but they could be competitive. It's happened. It's been a long time, but it has happened. And I'll throw it to you to finish, kind of wrap up the block here. Is Kansas really beyond repair?
No, I don't think anything is completely irretrievably broken, but you've got to have patience. And I think that KU really isn't going to have much choice because of the financial situation that you're in and everything that you've invested up to this point. What I may do if I was engaged in this situation and I was interim AD Kurt Watson, what I would probably do is, Wilkie, I would dive into a conference that you know very well when it comes to football. I would dive into the Missouri Valley Football Conference. Get an FCS coach, get a 1AA coach, whatever you want to call it, depending on how old you are. What Kansas State tried to do with Chris Kleeman,
will be successful in the long run. It's going to take a couple of years.
And that's the thing. You've got to be patient with it, but I think you've got to start locally, and I'll put that word in quotes, and build from there. Because of the shiny objects, Wilkie, and I'll let you wrap up real quick, Wilkie. The shiny objects aren't going to do it for you.
Yeah, okay. Be careful what you wish for the Missouri Valley, because remember, Bobby Petrino's in that league now.
Well, I'm not including him because he's in the state of Missouri. He's not in the state of Kansas.
At my alma mater,
Missouri
State.
Have fun.
All right. Look, I don't think Kansas is a lost cause. I really think that is a program that can win and can win successfully. You mentioned the K-State model. Bill Snyder had the perfect way to ignite that program. Just raid the junior colleges and play 1AA schools until you finally have built up enough equity to where you're getting really great recruits.
Yep. And
your system is solid. And that's what they need to have. They need to have a system within that football program. I would almost say look into the Nick Saban coaching tree and see who you could pick from that too, because that might be an avenue, and promise them the world. But look, that's a fan base that is salivating for a successful football program. There's plenty of money there within the alumni and the booster and the donor base. Plenty of money. You've got a metropolitan Kansas City, which is 45 minutes away. And if you need to play some games in Arrowhead Stadium, do it. Mm-hmm. You're in a great conference. You're within shouting distance of great players in the Tulsa area, Dallas-Fort Worth. You're penetrating into Louisiana, and market that logo, that Jayhawk logo, because get away from the KU on the side of the helmet. Put the Jayhawk there. That's an iconic logo. There's so much upside to Kansas and their football program. Look, I was recruited by KU for baseball. And when I went up there, I fell in love with the campus. They took me to Fog Allen. I briefly saw the football stadium. This was in 1984. There's so many good things about that university. It's just had poor leadership, and it's gone all the way to men's basketball. Mm-hmm. And that's that's fine with me. You guys know I'm as passionate about college basketball as I am about college football. And I've seen a game at Allen, and it was one of the best experiences of my life, although I was rooting for Mizzou at the time. Uh-huh. But I digress.
Yes.
But if you, as I mentioned earlier, if you can establish that respect with Bill Self, whoever the candidate is, and I think that would go a long ways. But no, I don't think it's a lost cause, guys. I think it can be a viable college football program. There's so much upside there. It's just it needs the leadership to get there.
I think that'll put a good wrap here on the first half of the show, where we talked about Kansas and talking about resuscitating programs. When we come back in the second half, I'm going to talk a little prime time.
Prime time.
Who has resurfaced and breathed new life into a program in desperate need of it. All that, plus, oh God, now I can't remember the other stuff we were going to talk about.
Overtime.
That just means we'll make it up along the way.
Yeah, a whole bunch of other stuff here in the second half of the review. You are listening to the review on the OSG Sports Podcasting Network.
The OSG app is up and running on your Android or iPhone. Install the OSG app and listen to our podcast from college football, soccer, and lacrosse. What are you waiting for? Download the OSG app today.
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, contact my friend Steve Apolinski of Apolinski and Associates. He's been representing individuals for over 30 years throughout Georgia and Alabama. Email him at steve@aa-legal.com or call him 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Why can't it happen? Why not us?
Thanks for sticking around, everybody. You have made it to the second half of the review. This is the Online Sports Guys College Football Podcast. You can find us on audio by downloading our phone app, of course. Look up OSG Sports at the Apple Store and Google Play. You can find us on social media at OSG Sports on Facebook and Twitter. We are on Stitcher, Spreaker, Spotify.
You name it, we're there.
You name the podcast application, there's a pretty good chance if you punch in OSG Sports, we're going to come up. And by the way, if you're wondering what OSG is, that's us. We are the Online Sports Guys. OSG Nelson, Jay Wilkerson, me, Phil, them Johns.
Yes.
The other John not here. He
On
is
assignment.
on assignment, working at the moment. We like to talk college football, and we're going to talk a little bit more college football here in the second half of the show, starting off with prime time.
Here we go.
Prime time.
Here we go.
Deion Sanders, his own self, has taken over the if you don't know it by now, you will know it very soon. He's taken over the program at Jackson State University in the beautiful state of Mississippi and made them into a contender. Here's the FCS teams play in the spring of 2021. Only 2 games into the season, but already 2 convincing wins, one over NAIA level Edward Waters, but the second win, a huge win over Grambling State. Yep. And Mr. Primetime seems to have breathed a bit of life into not only Jackson State, but arguably the FCS as a whole. What are you guys seeing here? Is he that much of a tactician, or did he do something else?
I think that, when Deion got the gig at Jackson State, you instantly saw the draw of the high school recruit wanting to go play with and for Deion Sanders. That first and foremost, that's the idea of playing with or under Deion Sanders and his staff at Jackson State. And I think that what you have in Deion is someone who's the CEO. You have someone who brings the enthusiasm, who wins the press conferences, who is there, he's the flag bearer, and he's going to be the guy who's going to be first out the door to sit there and say, come to Jackson State and be a part of something. And I think that there's that instant attraction of the high school football player who saw Prime on NFL Network, knows about him from his time in the NFL and as a college athlete, maybe by asking their parents. But there's that instant drawing card of having someone like Deion at Jackson State, Wilkie, and it just grows from there with the talent that you get to bring in.
Yeah, we all know Deion Sanders just is brimming with charismatic.
He is?
Charisma.
I mean,
come on, that's what.
Deion.
Yeah, come on now. You're a Florida State guy. You know all about the show.
I do. Yeah, I
but
do.
you know,
really.
But Deion Sanders has always struck me as a down-to-earth type of person. But what I love about what Deion Sanders is doing. You know, we talk about we've read, we've heard about the HBCU schools and how they were such a pipeline for NFL talent back in the days when back in the 60s, and when the AFL teams were plucking those HBCU schools before we were really integrating, and how it's kind of it's not even a factor anymore. I mean, Grambling and Southern used to be a appointment television, and you don't even see that anymore. And I like the fact that a famous African-American football player saw the opportunity to use his charisma to breathe life into the HBCU programs. And I think that's wonderful that someone of his stature is willing to put himself out there to upgrade the profile of HBCU schools, and in a bigger picture, the FCS. And the fact that he's having an immediate success, and the fact of the matter that kids want to play for him, I think is going to kind of change things in the HBCU schools for the much better. And now they're going to see the relevancy again, which I think is phenomenal. I would love to see these schools back on the national stage. This might be a little bit, John, you were talking about being that wayward place for Power 5 kids to get a second chance, or bypassing the power leagues altogether and going there to be the big man on campus. I think it's, I'm glad to see he's having this kind of success with Jackson State, and I think it's for the better.
And it's interesting. He's already flipped I want to say he flipped a Georgia recruit, and got
a
couple other kids that were headed toward the big time programs to come play for him. It's interesting because when we were talking about the history of the HBCUs, it registered on me. Oh wait, Walter Payton played at Jackson State way back in the day.
Yeah. Doug Williams,
Steve McNair played at Alcorn State. There's a long list of guys that played there and were hugely successful. And if you're that good, NFL scouts are going to come find you.
Right. Well, they're on the radar screens of NFL scouts. They've always have been. They've always been destinations, just not as much lately because, the integration of college football and, many successful African American players or high school players are going to the big schools, and it's kind of left the HBCU schools kind of just picking what's left. And now you get someone like Deion Sanders, who's a high-profile African American athlete who is willing to give his time and to upgrade the profile. And I think it's just wonderful. I think it's great. And the fact that initial success has been tremendous, I think it bodes well. And I'm interested to see how this evolves, because I think it's going to be a great thing for those schools. And they're going to get new recognition.
And lots of publicity by playing in the spring this year, because they really don't have any competition or anybody else to keep eyes off of them.
And don't think for a second, if anybody tells you that they aren't watching college football in the spring, I would check the length of their nose on the other end of the phone line, because, and if you're not, I'll say this, you're missing some great football. You're missing Southern Conference. You're missing, you had a Furman, and you had overtime games coming out of your ears in the last couple of weekends. It's great football.
For the first time in 7 years?
Yeah. So North Dakota State out of the blocks, when you have all of these rivalries coming at you with Furman and Samford and Gardner-Webb and Presbyterian and Grambling, who was charging for a late score against Jackson State, and then they get stuffed right at the end. It's great football, and I think that, when you look at all of the other things that we've been attracted to in the past about the spring, the XFL, the USFL, the AAF, whatever you want to call it, I think that folks instantly will gravitate to college games just because of what we're used to seeing on Saturdays. And so now you have college football on Saturdays and Sundays here in the spring, and it gives you something to gravitate toward. And I think that what it also does is it gives all of these athletes, Wilkie, that you were talking about, the chance to be seen on a national stage. Not like they wouldn't be seen anyway through film study and draftniks and all that kind of stuff, but what it also does is I think it expands what NFL fans are going to be looking at come NFL draft time because of all the quality talent that you normally don't sit there and look at because you're looking at your school on a Saturday in the fall. You're getting to expand your horizons a little bit and see what's going on at the FCS, the D2, and the NAIA coming up with what we're seeing in the spring.
It's a good point. It's very similar to what we've talked about with the Sun Belt over the fall. Having the opportunity to get exposure and making the most of it. And that's what the FCS schools are doing right now. You brought up NFL scouts, and, they have a routine. They've already had the combine. So if you're a senior in an FCS that has some kind of talent, do you get plucked off the roster right then and there? Because the draft is coming up in April, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's usually when the spring season is going to wrap up, I believe. So that creates a rather unique dynamic with the FCS schools. But I think of a league like the Missouri Valley, which is the SEC of the FCS. And they're getting some exposure now. And, North Dakota State is a known commodity, but that known commodity is starting to reach a larger audience now. And I'm sure the Dakota Marker will should be appointment television on a small scale level, but it might get some more exposure because SDSU is just as good as NDSU. It's just, NDSU has the trophies. So yes, those guys are getting the exposure. That's good. But we're kind of going in uncharted territory now because while we got college football, we got the NCAA men's basketball tournament, which is its own different animal. And they're going to be butting heads. And this is the point I made back last summer when we were talking about a possibility of spring football. You don't want to mess up the NCAA tournament because if Alabama is playing Georgia and you got a Sweet 16 game and it's Gonzaga and don't Illinois because they're having a great year. Okay, I got a choice, and I'm probably, knowing me, I'm going to have two TVs on. I'll be watching both games. But for the casual fan, I think football wins every time. And I think that's the dynamic as far as why that wasn't going to work. But on the FCS level, that's going to be interesting because there's going to be games being played, probably some rivalry games, and the NCAA tournament is going to be going on, and that's going to be top of mind.
Speaking of NCAA and different things going on, a proposal out there would make some major changes to what NCAA college football overtime has been like. And I got to admit, I enjoy the way that they play overtime right now.
Yeah.
Because it makes for some unbelievable drama. But I think that there's some coaches who are not such big fans, particularly the games that might end up going to 4 or 5 or 6 overtimes because of the physical toll.
Right. Where were you guys for the 7 overtime game over Thanksgiving in 2018 with A&M and LSU? Were you guys up late watching it until like 12:30 in the morning?
No.
I don't remember that, but I do remember watching the 7 overtime game between Arkansas and Ole Miss back when Eli was playing for Ole Miss. And that game ended rather late too. And I was hanging on every play. And I think it was next year that they had the 6 overtime game with Arkansas did with Kentucky. And that's worked out well for the Razorbacks. They're 2-0 in those type of scenarios, but
5 overtimes or more, Arkansas is 2-0.
So I do remember where I was for that, and I was hanging on every play. And I think the overtime lasted almost, it seemed like lasted as long as the game actual regulation went.
Yeah.
But I just remember reading the stories and hearing from some of my former colleagues about how exhausted the players were and how it was very difficult to recover from something like that. And I totally get it. And I think it does need to be tweaked. Those overtimes were before they made you go for 2 points after 2 scores.
Yeah.
If the physicality of the and look, I'm a guy that always sides with the players. So I'm kind of okay with the proposals that they're dishing out there, but I think it'd be interesting to go to a hockey shootout kind of thing with the field goal kickers. Yeah, it's gimmicky. Yeah,
well, but you're close with what's being proposed to the rules committee, where
about to see what he's going to say.
Yeah, it's like you're required to run 2-point plays. This is if the rules committee gets what they want. Required to run 2-point plays after scoring a touchdown in the second overtime, and then nothing but alternating 2-point plays if the game goes 3 OT or longer. So you're getting closer to your idea of the hockey shootout, where basically starting 3 overtimes, it's 2-point play, 2-point play, 2-point play. You're not getting it at the 25 at that point. It's just
you don't win.
Yeah, it's just like you're playing for 2, you get 2-point conversions and go forward.
Yeah, I get that, but I still like to see the kickers. Start off with the normal extra point and then go back 5 or 10 yards, and have like the line score until you miss. And I would much rather do that. Obviously, the first 3 kicks will probably be, good. So it's like in the hockey shootout where you get 3, and then from then on, it's whoever misses. I think that would be exciting. You'd have guys on their knees praying for each kick.
Oh, that'd be great.
And I'm okay putting that kind of pressure on the kicker because look, your linemen have had the hell beat out of them for 4 quarters. Your running back, same thing. Receiver's been running down the field. Your quarterback has tried to lead your team. Your defense is gassed. Let the kickers decide the game. I think that would be kind of cool.
Would you really?
And if the NCAA is listening to this and considering it, I will be copywriting this.
There
idea,
you go.
So there will need to be large checks involved.
A sudden death field goal off.
That'd be awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
Let's take it a step further. Let's do like the hockey shootout where you get to choose who gets the kick.
Oh, well, but then, is it the Olympic shootout where you sit there and do it like where you just keep sending? It's like the Olympic shootout. You keep sending the same guy up and up and up and up and over and over and over. You want different shootout guys. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I see that making a nice little wrinkle.
You see an offensive lineman come up in round 4 and kick a PAT.
Well, I'm thinking even for the PAT distance, that cannot be your kicker. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
And then once you get to a reasonable distance, which was whatever distance is, now get your kicker.
5 yards. You keep going back 5 yards each and every time. By the 4th round, you're looking at 37 yards by round 4.
Yeah, so you need your kicker for that one, but that would add a little different wrinkle, having to send your regular player that's could be a lineman, could be a quarterback, could be anybody. It has to kick the extra point to get it going.
It's tremendous. That's what you've gotten us into with this topic, Phil.
Yeah, I'm going to change it just ever so slightly here to kind of wrap up the last topic of the show this week. Almost every program, every one of the FBS programs have announced that their spring game times, and a lot of them have announced that they're intending to hold games this fall with full packed houses.
Yeah, Alabama said so, yeah.
If you had asked me this question 6 months ago, I'm not sure I would have been so cool with it, but I'm thinking that this might actually work.
People do what they're supposed to do between now and then, sure. I mean, it's right now you're looking at, as we're talking, we're in March. You're looking at spring games being what spring games are. And the University of Alabama said that they were going to have full houses and anticipating that in Tuscaloosa in the fall. I get it. Okay. Just do what you're supposed to do between now and then and see where it goes.
Yeah, the vaccine's out and plentiful. We all should be vaccinated by then. When you look at the numbers, it's extremely encouraging. Things are getting a lot better out there. I think people are confident. Look, it's a psychological thing too. People need this now. I could go into college athletics needing it because they're hemorrhaging money, but that's one thing. But psychologically, I mean, I need it. I need to see 80,000. Look, I talked about being a passionate college basketball fan too. I haven't been able to watch college basketball because there's no atmosphere. I don't know how I feel. I haven't watched the conference tournaments, and because of the same thing. But
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm really interested in the NCAA tournament this year.
Yeah.
And because of the fact that it's going to be in Indiana and it's going to be played now, I think it's kind of cool. It's going to be at Butler Fieldhouse. But I just don't know if there's going to be the same type of passion and atmosphere that we're used to. And there's a special team in Washington State by the name of Gonzaga that could do something that Indiana did in '76. Run the table. And I have watched them play, and quite honestly, I don't know who can beat them. But again, I think we need that psychologically. We need to see a full house at Bryant-Denny, at Jordan-Hare, at Reynolds Razorback, between the hedges, get that atmosphere back. And I think that would be tremendous for the psyche of not only sports fans, but for the general public to do those things again that we weren't able to do. And I think the confidence is there right now. I think people are doing the right thing. And the confidence is there right now to get back to a normal sporting life. And we need to start talking about the crowd as well and all that good stuff.
John, how excited are you at the thought of actually being able to go back to games in the fall?
Hey, I'm excited for all of us. It's not about me, but it's about what Wilkie was talking about. It's about the sense of community that you get. And it's not just for college football. It's about all the other sports we cover too, that are having these opportunities where I imagine it's going to start out with smaller percentages, then build up and build up and build up if everyone does what they're supposed to, and then getting back to the new normal come the fall, because it will have been basically a year and a half getting back to that point. And so as long as, like I said, as everyone does what they're supposed to and continues to walk forward in the direction that we're supposed to do it, then come the fall, I'd love to see it. So just keep everybody, just when it's your time, roll up your sleeve and get punched. That's all I'm saying.
And Phil, I imagine I'll be spending most of my college football Saturdays from now on at Paulson Stadium in Statesboro, watching Georgia Southern, as my son will be attending there. Yes.
There you go.
My son will be attending there next fall. So I imagine I see some road trips for probably you and me going to your alma mater and watching some football.
I think we might be able to make that happen. I definitely think we might be able to make that happen.
I need to find some Georgia Southern swag too.
Oh, well, he can hook you up for that. By the way, before we go, one of us had a birthday this past week.
Ooh, yeah.
and it's not either of the guys named John that had a birthday this week. It's the other guy with the beard and the Georgia Southern T-shirt. He's the one who had the birthday. So happy birthday, my friend.
Happy birthday, Phil.
Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate it. I might have perhaps celebrated a bit much on Friday. But
Saturday was rough, huh?
little bit of the recovery, little hair of the dog, maybe.
Actually, I felt fine Saturday morning. There were parts of Friday night that had to be pieced together. But that's a conversation. Good bit of water overnight takes care of a lot of that problem. Yes.
Proper hydration, my friend. Proper hydration and making sure that everything is done in moderation.
Strong coffee and a greasy hamburger can't kill
that sounds fantastic.
It's all about experience, and Lord knows I got plenty of that. And guys, why don't we wrap it up? We've talked long enough. We've had a good show. Thanks for tuning in, folks. We appreciate it. Sorry we haven't been able to get to you on a consistent basis, but quite honestly, doing this every couple of weeks makes a little bit more sense right now because it gives us more time to develop these in-depth topics to talk about, kind of like what we did today. So hopefully you'll be on the lookout. You'll watch for us on social media. We'll post and let you know when we're going to be putting a new show up on the air. And hopefully J-Dub will be able to join us, and he'll come off the assignment.
Get off the assignment desk, J-Dub.
And join us to make it a fabulous foursome here on the review. For OSG Nelson, for John Wilkerson, I am Phil Cantor, OSG Phil. We are the Online Sports Guys. Thanks for sticking around, everybody. We are ever so grateful. Have a great week, and we will talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.